What? What's wrong? What's wrong?
Me and Michael wanted to do a Zoom.
All right, so see if Daddy can set it up for you. And if he can't, then I can set it up, but then, or I can set it up in like an hour.
If I told him I would do Discord, but I didn't know you had to change.
Well, I'm going to be on with Israel, actually. Do you want to see? Well, wait, excuse me. Shut the door, please, and ask Daddy if he can do it. And if not, then we can see what I can do, okay?
Okay.
Stop the whining, though.
Nathan can just text his mom that we can't do it now.
No. Yeah. Okay, so then I'll do it when I can do it at like 5:15 or a little bit after, okay?
Just text his mom.
Okay, so I will text Shirley now. Max! Ooh. How many?
Hey Danielle,
Hello, how are you?
good. How are you doing?
Good, thank you. How is it there?
It's okay. We have our normal chaos, our yearly chaos of elections and making a Knesset and such. But what are you gonna do? Other than that, everything is fine.
Good. Yeah.
The
Luckily,
Knesset,
we're past that here for now.
yeah, God. At least we can always fall back on the success of the vaccinations. There's always that.
Exactly. Exactly. That's what actually Connecticut's doing really well with vaccinations. So we're priding ourselves on that too.
Oh, good, good. So each state is responsible that gets a certain amount, and you just deal it out the way you want.
I think the governors each decide how it's being dealt with. Um, I think that's generally how it's going. So Connecticut's number 2 in the country as far as states
Wow.
with the success rates or
What are
higher.
the percentages of people over the age of 18 who have, or 16, I guess?
So 16 was just opened up in Connecticut as of the first. So it's still pretty low, but last numbers I saw were in the I want to say 40s, but maybe that's for higher age. Maybe that
Hmm.
was 16 and into the 45 age range or something like that. Yeah.
And it's just open to everybody. Anybody over the age of 16 can get it now, or is
Now
that?
that's how they're doing it. Yeah.
Didn't Biden just come out with a another statement as far as moving the date up for?
Yeah. So again, it's like he's kind of giving the overall, and then every governor seems to be doing their own thing. So that he's kind of directing the governors to say, yes, open this up. And Connecticut even opened up as of April 1st. It was supposed to be May 1st, and then it got pushed up to April 1st to 16 and above. So,
You
and the
think the
hard part,
governors would like try to, I don't know, some form of best practices?
yeah, it would be nice if they were all, I mean, look, you have also then Texas doesn't believe in a mask, doesn't believe, I don't know what the vaccination is. They're the only place in the country where they're having the whole stadium for baseball being opened up at 100% capacity. So go figure.
Crazy,
Yeah,
crazy. All right. Okay, so we'll do a quick run through just to make sure the clips
sure.
work. And today we said we're doing Jerusalem and Tel Aviv.
Correct.
Then next time we'll be off the beaten path. So this
Correct.
is the more kind of classic, and then we can also connect it to Independence Day and a few other things. All
Yes,
right.
perfect. Here, I'm going to make sure that you can.
Yeah. And then,
Yeah.
so is it Temple Bethel or Congregation Bethel?
Congregation Bethel, but yes, that is where we are. So this is the main street of, yep, and that's our building.
Right. So because it says Temple Bethel on the front.
It does, doesn't it?
Yeah.
But if you were to say that to some people in this congregation, they would not be happy. So,
No, that's why I know. If it was a Reform synagogue, then mele, but it's conservative. So.
exactly.
So you'll also see that again, Google Earth is on the fritz, and it takes sometimes it works fine, and
Hmm.
sometimes it freezes, and I have to kind of jump back and forth between slides, and then now it spins around fine. So anyway,
Yeah.
this will be our bus pickup. This is where we get the bus, and then we fly away. And the kids are they back in synagogue, like in building yet, or you're still on Zoom for everything?
We are on, so a lot of them are in public school. Not all of them, some of them are still virtual, but that's more out of choice.
No, but I meant the
But
religious school
so
itself.
we have stayed virtual out of what's made sense
Got
for
it.
us.
Okay, no, because that means they will not have seen, we wouldn't have been in the building for a while.
Correct. At
Right.
least the earliest would be October.
Okay.
We did start off, we tried to do a hybrid model, but because we were so small, it just wasn't working as well as anticipated. So we went to an all virtual model.
Got it. Yeah, hybrid seems to be kind of tough.
Yeah.
What would you say their level of Hebrew is? Could they read that without vowels? No. Okay.
Actually, the one who might not, I don't think is here today.
Okay, so then I'll
So
just.
we are actually recording this because a few have asked. It is one school. There's all different schools who come here. So one school does happen to be on spring break.
Okay. All right, so we're going to go from Ben Yehuda Street to.
Nice.
We're going to land in front of Jaffa Gate. And again, it froze, so unfreeze it. Hopefully that'll do the trick. Come on, come on. a little more problematic than usual, but hopefully they won't notice too much. Spin around, and then we look for the guide. Where is the guide? Where could he be? Oh, wait. There he is.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to the city of Jerusalem. You know, I've chosen probably the worst spot to...
Okay, did you hear me okay?
Yeah, perfectly fine.
Great. And then so basically we're gonna be jumping around from different sites, from here onto the walls, then back through, walking through Jaffa Gate, then the Shuk, then overlooking the Kotel, then we'll walk through security to the Kotel. I have some notes, they'll see me putting notes in the wall.
Nice.
And then we'll fly to a different part. So that'll be the old city, and then we'll do some of the new city, which will include the Knesset, and it'll include the train station and the Mifletzet, the slide that's there, if you've seen, and then the overview from the Tayelet. And then we'll fly to Tel Aviv. We'll be in Jaffa. We'll land. We'll then have a clip overview, and then we'll fly to Rothschild Street, and then we'll walk over to Independence Hall. And I have various clips like this. This was taken this was a couple of years ago already. So there won't be any masks or anything. And I'll explain that as well. And then I have a clip of, because now Independence Hall is under renovations, but I had filmed the clip when it was open inside. So
nice. I was even there 2 years ago and it was already closed.
Yeah. It's been a while.
Yeah.
So anyway, so then we'll end up on the beach, and then we'll walk over to the port of Tel Aviv and getting an ice cream or something. So again, layers of
yeah, I can't provide that, but that's okay.
All right. Okay. So let me just get rid of this. We're good. Sounded fine.
Yeah, sounded fine.
And I'll stop share. Hello. This is Maura Debbie, and I think, I don't know if Steve, there could be one of two people.
It's
Hello.
Isabella.
It's Isabella?
Yeah.
Okay, I didn't know if it was you or Alex.
All right. Open this and make this smaller. And so we have Maura Debbie, and
We have, I think that will be it for Maura.
Okay, got it.
But, and me.
The kids know you as Maura Debbie and Maura Danielle?
Yes.
Got it.
Yeah, Braden, you don't need a mask.
I'll leave at about 5 or 5:05 today.
Okay.
All right.
No problem.
When
Hi, Tuvels. Nice of you to, a happy accident.
Happy accident. We had a 4 p.m. opening, so we just jumped right on. Thank you for the invite.
know.
Hello, everybody.
I'm gonna go and tell Alex to log on.
Okay. Hi, Layla. Actually, some won't even know me as Maura Danielle. They'll just know me as Danielle as well.
Got it.
And we actually have hopefully
Is this like a
another.
special one?
What's that, Braden?
Is this like a normal listener or just like a special version?
This is a special version.
Special.
I also teach at Temple Israel in Westport, and so since my third graders there have been learning about Israel, I suggested that they come as well. So there will be some people who won't know each other actually on this.
So we'll have Bethel, Congregation Bethel, and Temple Israel.
Correct.
With us?
Yes.
Got it. And we have 1 hour, nachon?
Yes.
All right. Yofi. Hello. How's the weather? Looks like it's very nice outside. Who is that putting on her jacket?
More Danielle.
Yes.
On the 20th, are you starting at 4 o'clock?
What's that, Braden?
On the 20th, are we starting at 4 o'clock?
We are. Is that okay?
Yeah.
Oh my God.
All right. Hopefully we can get started in just a few minutes and that everybody will come on.
My brother's not going to be joining this today because he has no idea what we're doing.
I think, Georgia, that might be for the best because I don't know that he would sit here and do that all. Do you agree?
Yes.
Anyway, when I was in preschool, we used to do this all the time and set up a little plane.
Well, it's gonna be a little similar to that, but much more in depth, as I would say. Yeah, a little, yeah.
All right. We can wait a few minutes. Let's see if you want to get some numbers. That's fine.
Yeah.
We're good.
Guys,
We heard the wind.
We do have the wind.
He doesn't need to join if he doesn't want to.
Okay.
Windy McWin.
All right. All right. Hopefully, Layla, you're there. You are. Okay. I'm going to give everybody just about another minute or two to hopefully hop on, and then we will go on a journey.
We are indeed.
Oh, Isaac, it's a little cold there.
Whoa, that is quite the background. I love it.
Thank you.
All right, let's see. Who else do we think is hopping on?
Who is that? Who is that outside? Is that
That is Georgia. I can rename her.
Georgia? Can you move the camera a little? Can I see that swing set you have, that jungle, whatever that is back there? Are you able to move the camera at all? Oh, very nice. Is that like a climbing wall on the outside there? Does it have a climbing? Yeah, is there like
Probably,
a
I think so.
Nice.
She'll probably go in.
Yeah, that's great. I built one of those once. It took me about 18 hours.
Yeah, my husband could do it too, and we said it's worth it to pay somebody to have to do it. It's just the time of it.
You know, I've done a thing or two in my life. It was such a sense of accomplishment.
I can
I
imagine.
took apart one and taking apart one is way easier than building it.
I
Yeah,
would think so.
I would imagine.
Isabella, where is that in your background?
I don't know.
That
It was
looks,
one of the options.
Somewhere in Israel.
yeah,
It's Israel.
You think so?
yeah.
It looks like Israel because it looks old and Israel looks really old.
So
It's not like New York where everything is like 766 feet in the air.
I could do the grass.
Could do.
Wait, you're really tiny if you're in the grass. You're like a couple
On
millimeters.
beach.
That looks like the Dead Sea over there.
Did you see how Lila did hers? She fucking screams. She's in scream. She's like,
She's in a screen. She is. All right, so let us get started. I'm going to ask everybody to mute themselves if you are not already. But we're going to have Uri. How would you like them to address you if they have any questions?
Uri is fine.
Uri is fine. Great. So Uri is our tour guide, and he is going to be taking us on a tour of Jerusalem and Tel Aviv today. And Layla, I'm so glad you're joining us. Everyone, this is Layla, who is coming from Temple, Israel. I also see her for Hebrew school on some afternoons. And I'm so glad that we are here today to do this. And we are recording so that if you want to watch this at a different time too, or again with your parents, you are more than welcome to. So I'm going to turn it over now to Uri and take it away.
All right. Well, thank you very much, Mora Daniel. It is a pleasure to be with all you guys. My name is Uri, and I live in Israel, and I live in the city of Modi'in, where I am speaking to you from right now. Now you can see for a moment. Let me show you something here. Can you see that I just opened up you can see it's nighttime over here. So it's about 11 o'clock at night. It's already dark. And I'm very excited to spend about an hour with you, maybe a little bit less than an hour, so we can travel together to Israel. And as you heard, we're going to go to two main places. We're going to go to Jerusalem and we're going to go to Tel Aviv. Although I do see a hand up there over there. Isabella, is that you?
There's a big time difference.
There is. Huge, like 7 hours. It's crazy, but that's okay. I'm I'm very excited. So hopefully I won't fall asleep. Maybe I will a little bit. Now, I have to make sure, because we're going on a tiyul, the word tiyul, or without the accent, tiyul, is a trip. And when I go on a trip, I always have my hat with me. So you can see it also has my name on the hat, just in case you forget my name. It's also a hat from the University of Rhode Island. So I was very fortunate. They make a whole line of hats just for me. The way we're going to travel to Israel is as follows. In a moment, we're going to meet the bus. And if the bus doesn't show up, we'll have to fly. And we're going to fly all the way to Israel. We might hover over Israel a bit, and then we're going to zoom down into Jerusalem. And the way we're going to do that is with something called Google Earth, which you're probably familiar with, or some of you at least. And we're also going to, are we going to France? Yeah, I like that. Very nice. Nice beret.
Oui.
We're going to then use Google Earth, but we're also going to have guides on the ground who are going to walk us through some of Jerusalem and some of Tel Aviv. So the way we're going to do this is this. Okay. If it gets stuck, I will unstuck it and we'll manage to get through it. So here we go. Oh, here's another question for you. Actually, let me just put myself on gallery for a moment. Have any of you in the crowd been to Israel before?
No, but
I
but I have Harlop Street. Yeah, I'm a part of Israel.
Wait, who's talking? I can't see who's talking. Who was that?
That
Just
was
now?
Braden.
Braden, got it. So wait, you have been Braden or you haven't been?
I haven't been, but yeah, my last name is there. It's a street.
What's your last name?
Harlop.
Oh, very nice. Yep. I actually know a Harlap, a friend of mine. I wonder if you're related. Her name is Michal.
Eden has been to Israel.
Eden, you've been to Israel as well?
Yeah, and I speak Hebrew too.
מצוין. אז אולי נעבור לעברית וככה נדבר רק שנינו. No, okay. No, maybe we should stick to English. Maybe English would be a better idea for this trip, but we can schmooze later. All right. Okay. And now, is there anyone in the group who has not been to Israel? Excellent. Excellent. Okay, great. This is perfect because this way, many of you have not seen Israel before. Some of you have seen Israel before. And when we go to places, some of it will be familiar, some of it won't. But hopefully, we'll be able to do things together for the very first time. All right, you guys ready to travel? I hope so, because I am. And here we go. Let me share, and let me share. And who knows where we're picking up the bus? How long has it been since you guys have been? Have you guys been to Congregation Bethel in the last 6 months?
I went biking kind of near there, but yeah.
Near there. Okay. So, but I'm sure you've been there recently virtually through the screens, and I'm sure you can't wait until you can physically be back in the building. But what we're going to do is, you know what? I don't see the bus anywhere. I don't know what's going on here, but instead, you know what? Instead of waiting for the bus, why don't we just fly away? So we are off, and we'll leave Connecticut behind and make our way across the world. Great. Now, I apologize for Google Earth. Google Earth seems to be having small glitches, which include these white strips here, and sometimes it freezes up, but that's okay. Take a look for a moment at this part here. This is the state of Israel. You can kind of make out the outlines of the country, the borders. There's a city up here called Haifa and Jaffa and Tel Aviv and Jerusalem. This is all Israel. It's very long and narrow. Now, when I say very long, of course, I don't mean very long because Israel is actually a very small country. It's only about 300 plus miles long. So it's not very long. And it's only about 70 or 80 miles wide at its widest point. So it's not very wide. There's about 9 million people who live in Israel. And the capital of Israel is Jerusalem, and that's where we're going. In Israel, about 76% of the entire population are Jewish. About 22% are Arab. Of the Arabs who are living here, the majority are Muslim and the minority are Christian. We're a very layered society, lots of different kinds of people. But you know what? Let's get down on the ground and we can start to see some things. So here we go. We're about to land in the heart of Jerusalem, the capital of the state of Israel. We'll see if anybody's out. And boom. And again, it's a little frozen. It's okay. It's cold. There we go. We are right now. Oh, it doesn't look like there's a lot of people out right now. We are on a pedestrian mall. I don't know. Is there a place in Connecticut or near, let's say in near where you guys are, that there's an area just for pedestrians that has shops and cafes, restaurants, things like that?
The Sono collection.
What is it? The Sono collection?
It's a mall.
That's okay.
But isn't all what can so you can only go to the mall if you're a pedestrian.
That is true. Usually that's the case.
All right, so that means anybody on the street is a pedestrian, so that means anybody can go.
Anybody can go, but it's also an area that's outside that is not for any cars and just people. And that's what this area is as well. So a pedestrian mall is like a mall, but it's not inside a building. It's outside to the open air. And we are in one of the most famous pedestrian malls in all of Israel, and that is Ben Yehuda Street. Now, Ben Yehuda Street here, you can see the name here, Ben Yehuda. A lot of the streets in Israel are named just like Miss Harlap has a name, which is Israeli, and it's here in Israel. A lot of the street names are named for famous people. We don't really have a First Avenue kind of setup. We have names of people. And the name of this street, Ben Yehuda, is named for a guy by the name of Eliezer Ben Yehuda. And this guy, 130 years ago, was the main person involved of taking ancient Hebrew and making it modern Hebrew. And when he came to the land, he promised himself, I'm not going to speak anything but modern Hebrew. And nobody in my family will either. The only problem was that very few people spoke modern Hebrew. He had to invent it. Anyway, they named this pedestrian mall after him. And if you guys get hungry, we can always stop at Pizza Hut over here. And there's a word under here that you probably wouldn't find at your local pizza joints where you guys live. And that's the Hebrew word kasher, which means, who knows what kasher means?
It means that it's like
kosher.
Yeah.
And right, so there won't be any meat on the pizza and things like that, right? So it's a kosher Pizza Hut. So that's a little bit different. But you know what? Because it's night over here and I don't see a lot of people out, why don't we make our way to another very special place in Jerusalem?
Wait, why is the Pizza Hut written in English?
Well, that's a very good question. A lot of times in Israel, when restaurants want to make themselves sound more attractive than they are, they'll use a foreign language aside from Hebrew. They think it makes it seem more special. The other reason is because Pizza Hut is an American chain of pizzas, so that gives it more of an American flair to it by leaving the name in English. Sometimes, though, you'll find Pizza Hut in Hebrew as well with Hebrew letters. So we've just landed outside the walls of the old city of Jerusalem. Jerusalem is both an old city and a new city. Hold on, I'm just going to unfreeze the Google Earth here. Is both an old city and a new city. We're going to see both today. And the city itself, it's still frozen. The city itself, there we go. You can see, if we look out in this direction, you can see the new city of Jerusalem, part of it. And there's also the old city. But you know what? I think we have a guide who's ready to guide us out on the ground here. So why don't we see if we can find him? Ready, set, and go.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to the city of Jerusalem. You know, I've chosen probably the worst spot to talk to anybody about Jerusalem. Why? Because we're standing right over a busy road, a busy highway, and there's buses and there's cars, all this noise. So why stop and talk here? Because Jerusalem is not a museum. It's not a place where you walk behind glass and you see exhibits and someone says, shh. In fact, it's a place where people speak louder and louder than the person next to them because it's a vibrant, living place. Just standing where we are, you can look at the walls of the old city of Jerusalem. You can see the Tower of David, and if you look out into the distance, you can even see the red roofs of the very first neighborhood that was built outside the walls of the city of Jerusalem back in 1860, Yamin Moshe. But you know what? Why should we stand here? Why don't we climb on those walls and check out the view? Follow me.
I hope you guys aren't afraid of heights.
Hey, we made it. These walls are incredible. The walls themselves, not that old, only about 500 years old. Hey, let's go over here. I want to show you a great view. Follow me. So as I said, these walls are not very old. They're only 500 years old. In the grand scheme of things, with the history of the Jewish people being 4,000 years and people living here in the land of Canaan before it was the land of Israel going back 5,000, even 6,000 years, if not more, 500 is a drop in the bucket. But these walls were built by the Ottoman Empire when they first came. Suleiman the Great, who comes at the beginning of the 16th century, decides to build up the walls unlike anything before, and he builds them on the ruins of somebody who had built them up 2,000 years ago, King Herod. But enough about these old stones. Take a look at this view. Incredible. What you're looking at the modern city of Jerusalem, the modern city which didn't start until 1860. You can see the red roofed houses over there and the windmill. That was the very first neighborhood of Jerusalem that was built in 1860 by Moses Montefiore. You can see the King David Hotel. You can see all the modern construction. There is so much to see in this city.
Okay, you know what? I think we should probably come off of the wall and see if we can make our way closer into Jaffa Gate. So let's see, we can go over this way. Let's walk over a little bit. Maybe go forward a bit. And I think our guide might be waiting now in front of Jaffa Gate. That's where we are right now. And I'm sure there are things that are being said that maybe you don't understand all of it. Who is this guy, Moses Montefiore, back in 1860? Who are the Ottomans? That's less important. What's more important is that you guys get to see with your own eyes and hear with your own ears the streets, the sounds, and the sights that are in the city of Jerusalem. Later, if you want, we can even talk about why go to Jerusalem anyway? What's the big deal about Israel in the first place? But we can do that a little bit later. Let's see if we can find our guide again. Hold on. I think he's just waiting for us right outside the gates. Hold on.
In the city. So the walls were awesome, but in order to get into the city, we have to go through one of the gates. This gate here is called Jaffa Gate. The walls themselves are about 4 kilometers long, about 1.6 kilometers per mile. You can figure it out. So Jaffa Gate is called Jaffa Gate because the road from here went all the way straight to Jaffa. That's where people would get off the boat and come into the city so many years ago. In Arabic, it's called Bab el-Halil, which means the gate of the friend. And the friend in Arabic culture was Abraham. Friend to them, and of course, a friend to us. Here, come in, let me show you. So the gate itself was created so that when people walk into the city or conquer the city, they have to turn here to the left. It makes it very, very hard. And if you look up, you can even see hot oil would have been dropped right from above, or hot water. Here, come on in. And take a look at the window. It's not so much a window, but more like a slit in the wall so that people attacking would have a very hard time shooting in, but people in could very easily shoot out. But enough about attacking. Let's go check out the city.
Okay, so now that we're starting to walk through the gate, why don't we hop into the other side and unfreeze ourselves, of course. And now that we've made it inside the city, we'll just go forward a bit and walk in ourselves. Now we're walking inside. Take a look for a second. We're now inside the old city. You can see there's the inside of the gate. This bread, by the way, that this guy is carrying on his head is really good. We call it begale. Try that. Say begale.
Bagel.
Begale. Very good.
How does he
Bagel.
balance that on his head?
Well, it's not easy. I got to tell you. I can't do it. This gentleman clearly is a professional. But begale is our version of the bagel. I'm not talking about your cinnamon raisin or your puppy bagel.
Like actually shaped like a.
It's kind of like this oval kind of thing with sesame on it. And then it's really great by dipping it inside a spice called za'atar.
Oh yeah, I have that. We have that here.
That's really good. It goes good with a lot of things, on hummus and olive oil, on salad. It's kind of like oregano, but much better. Anyway, that's great. But I see food and I get a little crazy. So let's turn around again. We're gonna walk a little bit farther this way into the old city, and I think our guide is waiting for us right in the heart of the market. So let's just find him. He's right over. I see him. There he is. Let's follow this guy.
So here we are in the old city, in the Arab market. Actually, the old city is divided up into 4 main quarters. Here, let me show you. Take a look for a second. Here is the map of the old city of Jerusalem. You can see that we actually walked through Jaffa Gate right over here, the Tower of David. We were on the walls before over here, and it's divided into 4 main parts. We have the Armenian quarter over here, the Christian quarter, the Muslim quarter, and the Jewish quarter. In the old city of Jerusalem, there are about 33,000 people who live. Everybody lives on the one hand on top of each other, on the other hand, everyone's divided. But maybe that's what keeps things quiet. I mean, look at the beautiful things they sell here in the market, in the shuk. It really is amazing. People from all over the world come here to enjoy the alleyways, the rooftops, and the tunnels all throughout the old city.
So you know
I think
what?
I've been there.
Really? Very cool. It looks familiar. That's great. You know, just one thing I'll say is that our guide made these clips for us before COVID-19. So these particular clips that you're looking at, that's the reason why people are walking around. Now, people are actually walking around Israel today, not completely freely, but pretty open. Things are getting a lot better. But these were taken before COVID.
So we've just left the alleyways of the Arab market of the shuk and all of its colors and sounds and smells. And we've come here. We've come here to try and understand better that the old city of Jerusalem is holy to Muslims, to Christians, and to Jews. Just behind me is a golden dome, the Dome of the Rock, where Muslims believe that Muhammad ascended to heaven from after traveling from Mecca to Medina on his trusty steed El Burak, arriving in El Aqsa, the furthest most sanctuary.
I've been there too.
Also here is the Church of the Holy Sepulchre in the heart of the Christian quarter. And it's there that Christians believe that Jesus was crucified, buried temporarily, and then resurrected from. And of course, just down below, you can take a look in the square just down below, is the Kotel, the Western Wall, HaKotel HaMa'alavi. The Western Wall, which was part of the supporting wall, which held up a platform on which our holy temple once stood, is all that remains from that era. Now, when people come and they pray here, or Jews around the world pray in the direction of, they do that for a particular reason. Maybe some of them do it because it's the center of their Jewish identity. Maybe for some it's an honor of those paratroopers who came here in 1967. Maybe for some even they're just, well, curious observers. And maybe some want to challenge the religiosity of the place. Whatever the case may be, this place behind me is central to our story and to Jewish history. But before I go, let me just show you, you know what? Let me show you this picture. What you see here is a picture of, well, the Holy Temple as it stood 2,000 years ago. This was a temple that was built by King Herod, and what you see in the center is the Holy of Holies, the sacrifices that we would sacrifice, and that's how we spoke to God. And you can see the walls, the long wall over here, surrounding a hill, small mountain in the center of it. The mountain was called Mount Moriah, and the walls held up a platform on which the temple stood. a small section of this supporting wall. On the western side is the Kotel today.
Okay, so what we're going to do, that western wall is significant enough that we can fly now just outside the plaza, which is right in front of the western wall. And you can see we're actually not far from one of the gates, another gate just down below over here. You can see part of the Mount of Olives. There's a mountain over here called the Mount of Olives. One of you had a picture of Jerusalem. I think this might have been that picture that you had there. It was taken at nighttime, of course. And what we're going to do is we're going to go through, there's a security stand here just to make sure everybody stays safe when they go in front of the western wall. So we're going to go down these stairs that you can see and then through the security, and we're going to come out just on the other side of the security. So you'll bear with me for just a moment as we find where our guide is going to meet us. Right over there. Okay, here we go. Now this actually was taken during COVID-19 times. You can see there's social distancing there on the floor. This is the plaza in front of the western wall. Now I will explain that this western wall is actually an area that people pray. They don't pray to the wall, they pray at the wall, because the wall is the closest area that people can get to where the Holy Temple once stood. Now this Holy Temple, you saw the picture of it before. Our guide was showing it to you on that diagram that he had. This 2,000 years ago was the place where Jews went to express their connection to the Jewish people. Now at a certain point, somebody came, the Romans, and destroyed it. And therefore, we can't go to the temple itself, but we can go to an area which is near it. Now, the area itself has been divided into an area for women and an area for men. The reason for this separation, very unlike a conservative synagogue or a Reformed synagogue where everybody is able to pray together, this area has become somewhat of an Orthodox area, and therefore we have a women's side, which is what we're looking at right now. And in a moment, we'll go over together to the men's side. We're about to go in. You can see that the area has been closed off and quartered, so people have smaller areas because of COVID-19. And now we're looking up at the wall, and there's a tradition of putting notes. Friends of mine gave me notes to put in the wall, and on these notes, people might write their prayers and their hopes and their dreams and their wishes. These are all part of the experience. Not everybody has to do this, of course. You can just have it in your heart. But there's something special about writing down all these things and committing to what you feel. You can see all the notes that are in there. All the people who have sent messages of prayer and hope. Okay, so I think what we're going to do is we're going to leave the old city behind and see if we can find ourselves at a new part of the city of Jerusalem. So we're flying away, and we're going to land right in front of our Knesset. The Knesset is our parliament. It's our Congress building. Like you have the Congress, we have the Knesset. This is where our lawmakers and those people in our government will come and do all of the work of running Israel's democracy. Now you can see we actually went through the gate already. This is the gate, this is the entryway. We were allowed to come in. And if we want, you know what, why don't we go a little closer and see if we can get a little bit closer. At a certain point, security might ask us to stop, so we'll stop there. This is actually a very special day. You happen to be traveling to Israel when our Knesset is being sworn in, because we just had elections. So we're going through a lot of, well, you guys went through elections not too long ago. We also, and there's issues with our elections, but that's a different story. What I like though is maybe, you know what, because we're not allowed to talk too loudly in the Knesset so we don't bother anybody, why don't we go to a hill overlooking the Knesset, and I can show you a thing or two.
What you're looking at is the Knesset of Israel. The Knesset is our parliament building. The Knesset is named for HaKnesset HaGedolah, the Great Assembly, which was the main body of leadership 2,500 years ago when we returned from exile in 538 before the Common Era. But that's a history lesson for another day. The Knesset, or our parliament, is the center of Israel's democracy. And Israel, like Jerusalem, like everything we've been seeing, layer upon layer upon layer. Adjacent to the Knesset is Israel's Supreme Court building, which is situated just a little bit higher up physically than the Knesset itself. And if you look to your left over here, you can see the Israel Museum, a museum which is multi-layered with archaeology and history and modern art and contemporary Israeli culture. The city of Jerusalem, 3,000 years old since the days of King David when it first became our capital, just like all of Israel, layer upon layer upon layer.
Okay, so knowing about the Knesset is important. It's important to understand that Jerusalem is the capital of Israel and it's got its issues, don't get me wrong. But I also want to show you some places where people like to hang out. So we're going to fly from the Knesset, from our parliament building, and we're going to land at a place called the First Station. You can see this is an area. It's also a pedestrian area, by the way. It's more like a boardwalk kind of thing. And there's lots of shops and stores and stalls. You can get great ice cream here. And you can see there's these guys who are biking through here because there's some biking trails. I'll show you in just a moment. I'm also going to do is plug in my computer so it doesn't die. That's okay. And it is an area, actually, you know, on Friday afternoons, late in the afternoon, people come here with some music before Shabbat, and it really is just a fun area to be in the spring and the summer months. But I'm pretty sure you know what? I think our guide has joined us here. So I'm going to find him. So you'll bear with me for just a moment as I think he's right there.
So we're standing right now in the old train station of Jerusalem called the Tachana. The British used to have a train rail that came out that was built by the Ottoman Turks. Today it's been turned into an area with cafes and music and live shows and place for kids to just have a great time. And there's really no throwback at all to the old days when there was a train. Oh, I guess there is. But it really is a fun place. And actually, here, take a look for a second. You can see as the train drives away, it's on a track. This track used to be the old train station, the old railroads. And the railroad today is a running track and a bicycle track that actually goes the length of Jerusalem from where we are in the center of town all the way to the most southern point of Jerusalem, like 11 kilometers away. And instead of once being the proverbial tracks with neighborhoods on the other side of it, on either side, wealthy, less wealthy, Orthodox, less Orthodox, secular, Jewish, Arab, today this is a track which actually brings all of the neighborhoods together. Jerusalem's not perfect by far, but it is a place which is trying to improve itself and bring communities together when we can.
Okay, so I hope you were able to get your ice cream. I was. I think you know what? We've seen a lot of stuff. I think it's time to stretch our legs a bit. So we're just going to fly to another part of Jerusalem. It's actually one of my favorite spots, I have to tell you. And the reason this is my favorite spot, check out that slide. Now, is there anybody in the group? Let me just open this for a second. Actually, I can't see everybody. But is there anybody in the group who's 10 years old?
Yeah.
Yeah, we have. Are you guys in 5th grade?
I'm in
Yeah, I'm in 5th grade.
So the reason I ask is because the first time I saw this slide, I was 10 years old and I was just about to go into 5th grade because my parents moved to Israel when I was 10 years old. And we lived down the block from this slide. And my earliest memory of Israel is this slide. But you know what? Enough about me. Maybe our guide can take us for a run down the slide. Let's check it out. Hold on just a moment there. Let's find him. He's right over. I see him.
Take a look at that thing. That thing is one of the best slides in all of Jerusalem, maybe even all of Israel. This slide has a name, and the name is Mifletzet. the Mifletzit. The word Mifletzit in Hebrew means monster. Well, you can see it looks a little bit like a funny-looking monster. Hey, you know what? Do you guys want to take a ride? You want to go down the slide? Let's go check it out. All right, the stairs are over here. Come on. Oh, watch out for the sand. Here we go. Up the stairs. Running up the stairs. And now we're entering inside the Mifletzit. Oh, here we go. And 1. You guys ready? 2. And hold on tight. Uh-oh, uh-oh. Oh, that was great. All right.
Okay. So I have to tell you, it's a little bumpy. I don't remember it being that bumpy, but what are you going to do? One last stop in Jerusalem before we leave the capital and then head towards Tel Aviv, Jaffa. I want to take you to another favorite spot of mine. Let's just unstick ourselves here so that we can land right at Promenade. Let's go a little bit closer. See if we can get a little bit closer. And look over here. I know he's around here somewhere. Let's see if we can find him. Hold on. Hold on. Let's see. Where is he? He's right over. There he is.
Not bad, huh? It's a pretty good view. We could not come to Jerusalem and not stop here on the southern slopes of Jerusalem on the promenade, looking north with the entire city laid out before us. If you look over to the right, you can see on the eastern side, Mount of Olives. Moving more to the left, you can see in the far distance, Mount Scopus, which is where the Hebrew University is and the Hadassah Hospital. Moving more to the left, you can see the Golden Dome right in the center. We were there before. We saw it in the Old City. Okay. You can see the walls of the Old City right in front of us. And then moving more to the left, the modern city of Jerusalem. Laid out before us is all of history from the beginning of time here in this region, from ancient times to modern times. Laid out before us, we have cultures and religions and faiths and identities all crumbled up and spread out behind me. That's the power of Jerusalem. That's the power of this place, whether we were on the walls of the Old City today or in the alleyways or overlooking the Western Wall, or whether we were looking at the Knesset or coming here. Let me show you where we are on the map. You can see very nicely, the city of Jerusalem, right in the center of the country. This is just paper and plastic. Maybe for the city of Jerusalem, it'd be better if we held it up like this, so you could see all the multiple layers. What a great day to spend traveling around Jerusalem. I'll talk to you guys later. Bye.
Okay, so I think our guide is going to get on a bus and make his way to Tel Aviv. Tel Aviv actually has 2 parts to it. It's Tel Aviv and it's Jaffa. Remember, we were at the Jaffa Gate. It was called the Jaffa Gate. I don't know if you remember, but our guide told us it's because the road from there in antiquity, in olden days, used to go right from there all the way to the coast of the Mediterranean Sea and the ancient city of Jaffa. Jaffa predates Tel Aviv by about 5,000 years. We're going to start in Jaffa, even though it's part of the same city, and eventually make our way to the more modern part. So here we go. We are off, flying away from Jerusalem along to the coast, along the Mediterranean Sea. And we are right in the ancient port of Jaffa. You can see Tel Aviv off in the distance over there. But take a look at this. This is the ancient city of Jaffa. And if we look carefully, I'm sure somewhere in this ancient port, we can find our guide. There he is.
Nothing. I didn't catch anything. How you doing? Welcome to the city of Tel Aviv, actually Tel Aviv, Jaffa. Today's going to be a day where we try and understand new beginnings new beginnings of the city of Tel Aviv, but also of the state of Israel, because a big part of it happened here in the city of Jaffa. But you have to see where we are right now. We're in the ancient port of Jaffa, and I wanted to show you the beautiful view. The Mediterranean is very calm today. It's beautiful, but there is a nice little breeze. And you can take a look for a second. If you look at the horizon, you can see some of the modern buildings of Tel Aviv. And we'll get there a little bit later, but I did want to show you the incredible architecture, the incredible buildings, but more importantly, the incredible story of the city of Jaffa. Jaffa is a city that has seen almost every period of our history come through its gates. You know what? Here, follow me. I want to show you something. For generations and generations, eons, Jaffa has been a gateway into the land of Israel. Even before there were any Jews, we know that there were Canaanites who were here 4,500 years ago, even 5,000 years ago. After them, we know that there were Egyptians here, and we have archaeological digs on the Tel, which is Jaffa, this ancient archaeological mound, which tells their story. But if we want to come into our story, we know that King Solomon was here, and he brought the cedars of Lebanon from the north, floated them down on ships, and brought them through Jaffa to Jerusalem to build the Holy Temple. Jonah the prophet, we know that he ran from God when God told him to go to the city of Nineveh and to teach them there to be better people. He didn't want the job, so he comes here to Jaffa and he jumps in a boat, thinks he's going to escape, and then you have the whole Pinocchio story. He gets swallowed by a whale. But if I jump ahead in history, we know that the early Zionists came here. Actually, take a look at this picture. They came here when they were running from the pogroms of Europe, these organized attacks against Jews in Eastern Europe. But they were also being pulled by the story, which is the land of Israel, which was their story. And they get on these little boats after they got off the big boats, and they come to the port right where we were fishing before. And it's here that they look up at the city of Jaffa for the first time. Having dreamt about this place for so long, they take a deep breath for the first time of the land of Israel, and they say, yuck, this is gross. This isn't what we dreamed of. And yet they transferred that feeling that they initially had to something new. And as they looked to the north and the sand dunes that they found, they said, that's where we're going to build our city. Let's go see if we can find it. You know, the city of Jaffa is home not just to Jews. Today in the modern city of Jaffa, there are Jews and there are Arabs. And of the Arabs, there are Muslims and there are Christians. And in fact, there's Christians that come from other places around the world as well. One of the reasons that it's holy for Christians, actually, you can see the church behind me, is because many, many years ago, according to the Christian Bible, 2,000 years ago, in fact, St. Peter was called from the city of Lydda or Lodz, where today the airport is, David Ben Gurion Airport. He was called to come here because Tabitha, one of the disciples of Jesus, was dying and, in fact, on her deathbed. He comes here and he's able to perform a miracle and save her. In fact, the stones that you see around me offer stories. The building, the church, is only about 100 years old, but it's built on the ruins of a church which is about 500 years old, and it's built on the ruins of a church which is about 800 years old. The stones of most of the other buildings that you see are actually relatively young. They're only about 200 years old, so about halfway through the Ottoman or the Turkish Empire when they were ruling here. Most of the things that look new are new. Most of the things that look old are old. But I guess old is relative. So we've seen that the city of Jaffa is a good example of layer upon layer upon layer of archaeology, of history. It's also a good place to try and figure out the different cultures and religions that are here. And in fact, Jaffa is the place to come and to see where we entered into the land of Israel from for thousands of years. But if we want a window into the modern state of Israel and the modern land of Israel, we just have to look over here. The city of Tel Aviv, which is a representative of new beginnings. Out of those moments where we stepped off the boat and looked up at Jaffa and went, ugh, this is too cramped and too dirty and too dangerous. We created that. And there are those who point to that and say we've arrived in the Holy Land or the Promised Land. And some people say, you know what, maybe we've done too well and there's too many buildings. Let's go figure out what we can find.
Okay, so it's nice that we had that view, But what I'd like to do is to actually place us there in the heart of Tel Aviv, maybe where the city itself was born. So let's fly together, just a short hop down the road. And we're going to land right here on the corner of, hold on, let me unfreeze ourselves, on the corner of Rothschild Street and Herzl Street. But I'm pretty sure we can find our guide who can tell us a little bit more about where we're standing and why it's so important. Hold on, and
take a look at this picture. This is a picture of Tel Aviv in its earliest days. You can see, of course, the camel over here, but you also see this building. This was Gymnasia Herzliya, the first modern Jewish high school in the land of Israel. Now take a look at where we are. You can see we're on the corner of Herzl Street with Rothschild Street. You can see some of the Bauhaus architecture from the 1930s and the...
Hold on, let me just pause our guide for a second and tell you that this guy Herzl, for whom that street is named, his first name was Theodore. And Theodore Herzl was a guy who lived back in the 19th century. So we're talking about 120, 130 years ago. He's going to have a vision. Now, it's not like he was the most religious Jew. He was a Jew. He didn't really go to synagogue that much. And it's interesting, he became a lawyer, but he always wanted to be a writer. He was faced with a situation when he was covering a story about a Jewish captain in the French army who was being falsely accused of spying for somebody else. And people are saying terrible things about the Jews. And for Herzl, who knew this was all made up, it was fake news about this Jewish captain, he realizes Jews won't be safe until they have a place where they can go and be, well, in control of themselves. And he will think of this idea that we have to go from dreaming about a land to making it a reality with our own hands.
The 40s, and you can see the modern skyscrapers of the city of Tel Aviv. Actually, where that skyscraper is, not so pretty actually, is where that high school once stood. But this corner of Herzl and Rothschild where we're standing symbolizes new beginnings. And I want to show you where it all began, this way. You know, we're right where it all began. I know I already said that in Jaffa, but as far as Tel Aviv goes, and even the state goes, right here. Here, take a look at this. Take a look at this picture. 66 families from Neve Tzedek leave Neve Tzedek, and they say in 1909, we're going to establish something new, something different, and they're going to call it Tel Aviv. Now, why do they call it Tel Aviv? They call it Tel Aviv because, well, they're translating a book that was written by Theodore Herzl himself called Alt Neuland. Alt Neuland, which means old new land. Tel Aviv, tel, something very, very old, an ancient archaeological mound. Aviv, springtime, something new. It fit perfectly. And it was going to be in this place that, actually, this guy on the horse over here, his name was Mayer Dizengoff. Mayer Dizengoff's parents knew exactly what he was going to be when he grew up. What do you think? What was his job? Mayer Dizengoff? You're right, mayor. Mayer Dizengoff was the first mayor of the new city of Tel Aviv. And it would be in his home, which is right over here. And you can see the steps, you can see the flag, and you can see what actually looks like a very unimpressive building. The history of the Jewish people would change forever. Not only was it his home, but it was going to be a place where the story of Tel Aviv would develop into the first art museum, and it was also going to be where the state of Israel was founded. On May 14th, 1948, of course, you have to see a picture. This scene took place in there. In a rather unimpressive building, one of the greatest moments in the history of the Jewish people would take place. 300 invited guests were brought to this room to witness the birth of the state of Israel. On May 14th, 1948, Friday afternoon, 4 p.m., David Ben-Gurion got up on that podium and took his gavel and banged 3 times and began an event that would change the history of the Jewish people. Within 32 minutes, the whole event was over. Ben-Gurion had read the Declaration of Independence, and as though from the heavens, Hatikva, the hope, the national anthem of the state of Israel, came down. I know it sounds very poetic, but there was actually no room for the orchestra, so they stuck him on the second floor. But whether our exodus from Egypt or the declaration that took place in this room, it was exactly that hope, that tikva, which has driven the Jewish people to constantly yearn to return to their homeland as free people. Again, a very unimpressive building, but one of the most impressive moments in the story of the Jewish people.
So we have, it's great that we're able to see that, because pretty soon is actually Independence Day here in Israel, where we celebrate, not just in Israel, around the Jewish world, that moment that took place in that building. But I want to take you to one last stop before we say goodbye. How can we come to Tel Aviv and not hang out on the beach? So it's actually a lot warmer than Google Earth is letting us believe with all this freezing that's going on. But let's spin around for a second. This is really amazing. I mean, I got to tell you that the Mediterranean Sea is a lot warmer than the Atlantic. I can tell you that much. And there's some great chairs over here. It's about 20 shekels to rent one of these chairs. But actually, you know what I wanted to do? It's a really hot day. And just over here at the end of the beach, there's a boardwalk. You know what? Why don't we go over there and maybe we can get some cold drinks, and we can hear our guide one last time.
So we're here in the northern port of Tel Aviv, because Tel Aviv is much more than just new beginnings, but it's also a very vibrant. Oh, sorry, I just I had to get something called. It's an ice aroma. It's excellent. Hit the spot. So Tel Aviv is much more than new beginnings, much more than ancient Jaffa. It's also a modern, vibrant, bustling city. As you can see, it's actually very hard to get a place to sit here in the port. Tel Aviv has about 400,000 people. It's the second largest city in the state of Israel. It blooms to about 1.5 million on the workday. In the greater Tel Aviv area, there's about 2.5 million people who live in what's called the Dan region. It is a capital of industry, of high tech, of culture. And I mentioned it is vibrant beyond compare. The parties that happen here, the city that never sleeps, the Big Orange, it's called everything. Some people say that Jerusalem is a Jewish city and Tel Aviv is a city of Jews, although those Tel Avivis might say that this is the real Israel. I don't know what's right or what's wrong, but I do know that this is a powerful place with powerful beginnings and deep roots. And you know what? I think I'm going to have to get in line if I want to get a seat. So I'm going to have my cold drink. It was great seeing you. You know what? We got to see where we are on the map. Take a look for a second. This is our map of Israel. And as you can see, Tel Aviv is right here along the coast, and Jaffa is just south of it. Today it's Tel Aviv, Jaffa, and you can see where everything else is. Well, to see the rest of the map, we got to see the rest of the country. But for now, hopefully this is good. L'chaim, everybody. See you later.
Okay. So obviously there's more we could have seen in Jerusalem and Tel Aviv, not to mention the rest of the country. But hopefully that gave you a taste of what Israel has to offer. Eden, I see your hand up. Yes, ma'am.
I've been right there where you were standing.
Just now when I was holding the cold drink?
Yeah.
Great, excellent. Did you get anything to drink when you were there?
I don't remember if I did.
Oh, okay. I'm sure you got some ice cream or something. It's pretty good.
Oh yeah.
Layla, yes. Or Lila, sorry. Layla?
It's Layla.
Layla, yes.
While we were doing everything, I did lots of searches of places that we saw in Israel and Jerusalem.
That is awesome. Wait, let me see. That is so cool. I love it. Nice.
Thank you.
So, does anyone have any questions or any comments or anything else that you'd like to say?
It was really good.
All right. Well, thank you very much.
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't get to see me. It's my last name. Super unfortunate.
Well, next time, if you give me a heads up, I'll find your name and we can go look for it, okay?
Braden, do
So-
you know where to find your name?
Oh no, just look it up on Google Maps. It's probably there.
Okay, maybe next time. Okay.
Or a phone book.
Or a phone book. The fact that you know what a phone book is, that's pretty impressive.
True.
No, a Chromebook.
A Chromebook. There you go. A Chromebook, of
Okay.
course.
No, I said phone book.
Oh, you did say phone book. Okay, Isabel. That's
How
fine.
would you find a place in the world in a phone number book?
I thought it was like kind of weird and cool that like they built buildings on top of buildings that were like destroyed.
What? I'm sorry, I didn't hear.
I thought it was kind of cool and weird that they built buildings on top of the really old buildings.
Yeah, yeah. So, what's interesting is that there was a time where, for example, I mentioned these Ottoman Turks. They were around 500 years ago, and they used to be in control of the entire area. I mean, think about what was going on in America 500 years ago. But in that region, they found ruins of people who were there thousands of years before them. And they said, hey, there's some remainders of buildings. Let's just build on top of them. Nowadays, in modern times, there's a law in Israel that before you build up new buildings, you actually have to dig down to find out what was there in the past. And once you've done that, you have to document it. Sometimes it might turn into a museum, or I mentioned like an archaeological dig where people dig in the ground to look for old stuff. And then they'll build a new building. Either sometimes they'll even build a building over the site, or they'll decide not to build there because it's too important. But it is pretty cool. I agree with you. Yeah. The last thing I want to let you know is that we mentioned the place. We saw the place where the Declaration of Independence took place. Oh, by the way, do you guys know where the Declaration of the United States took place in the year? Where it took place? What city was it?
I know. I think it was signed in Pennsylvania. I forget what area. But the funny part about it, it says all men are treated equally, and the person who wrote it, had a bunch of slaves. Like, yeah, all men are created equally.
Britain, I hate to
Totally.
burst your bubble, but the Declaration actually says all men are created equal, not treated.
I said created equally.
You said treated. Just because you're created equal doesn't mean you're treated equal.
Right. So there's a lot of challenges, absolutely. But you're right in Pennsylvania, and the city was Philadelphia. Does anyone know the year?
1776.
1776.
1776, exactly, just like the Hamilton song. And what I think is interesting is that Israel's independence happened much, much later in the year. Oh, does anybody know? 1948. So it's much, much later, but it's in a land which is much, much older as far as its history in the Jewish people.
It wasn't that long ago.
1948 wasn't long ago at all, but if we think about the stories associated with Abraham and Sarah, our matriarch and patriarch of the Jewish people, that goes back 4,000 years ago. So much, much longer ago. But 1948, you're absolutely right. May 14th, 1948 was when Israel's Declaration of Independence was signed. And coming up in about 10 days or so, 2 weeks or so, we will be celebrating Israel's independence. You'll notice it's not on May 14th, but I just told you it was May 14th. The reason is because the Jewish holidays, as you may know, go according to the Jewish calendar. And back in 1948, May 14th happened to land on the date of the Jewish calendar, the 5th day of the month of Iyar. So coming up, is the 5th day of the month of Iyar in 2 weeks. And with that, I will conclude, and I will thank you guys for your attention and for joining me on this incredible journey of Jerusalem and Tel Aviv. And to let you know that next week we will be meeting again in two weeks. 2 weeks? In 2 weeks. We will be meeting again right around Independence Day, actually. And we will, well, go, if we saw today some of the classic sites that are very well known and important to see, the next time we meet, we're going to go off the beaten path and find some secret hideouts that, well, not everybody.
Wait, what? I couldn't hear you. What did you say?
I said, the next time we meet, we're going to go to Israel, but we're going to go to places that most people who travel to Israel don't see. So there'll be some pretty cool places, if you ask me.
Well, how come it's on Google Maps?
What'd you say?
And how is it on Google Maps?
Well, I didn't say nobody saw it. I said most people who come to Israel don't see it because they don't know to look there. So I'm going to take you to some places that only Israelis know about. Okay?
Oh.
Does anybody know how to
dad's
say
Israeli.
thank you in Hebrew? How do we say thank you?
I gotta go to baseball
Ta-da.
practice. Bye.
Toda rabah. Can you say toda rabah to everybody, to Ori?
Shalom.
Bye.
Bevakasha, חבר'ה, you're welcome.
Bye. It was awesome.
Hi, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye, everyone. See you
All
later.
right, thank you, Ori. Have a good night.
All right.